Welcome to the Top 200 podcast with your host, Herschel Flynn.
What's up, everybody? It's Herschel Flynn from High School Top 200, and this is the Top 200 podcast, the Monday morning meeting. Thank you, Georgie Boy, for my introduction. Welcome, everybody, back. If you're new to this podcast, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends, make some comments. Judge what I say, have a look at what I say, try and get me in, ask me some questions, things like that. Make sure you jump onto Facebook and like the page on Facebook, also on Instagram as well. And then make sure that you subscribe to the website on hhstop200.com, $5 subscription for the month. All of the information that you're going to need for First 15 rugby around the country. I try and cover the whole country and all the grades around the country as well. So, the $5 does go a long way. It goes a long way in supporting First 15 rugby at this level for boys. And I'm also sort of gradually going on to the girls too, and trying to get as much content and attend as much games as I can. So that's what this page is all about. I do this all by myself. I give my own time and my own time and attention to this, and as much resources as I can to try and lift the game of First 15 in New Zealand and just get it out there to the people, because I really do appreciate a lot of the stuff that these First 15 players sacrifice, and that they're able to come out week to week and give us a fresh look at new talent, but it is also at the highest level, where these boys that are some of the best players in the country are already playing at an NPC level, skill level right now in high school. And so for me, I like seeing them before they become stars, and that's why I dedicate so much time to this. And I really, really love what I do, and also doing my part, I think, to support First 15 rugby in New Zealand, for not just for the boys, but also trying to do it for the girls too. We have a few things that I want to talk about, especially this week, and I think it's always good competition and always a good reset for not just the country, but also for a lot of teams that are trying to be the best team that they can be. And I know a lot of people don't, and I know a lot of coaches don't do this. I know coaches kind of keep this out of their minds, but I do know that a lot of coaches do pay attention to the rankings, and they do want to push their team to be the best team in the country, and have that mentality, not so much on my rankings, but also just to have that mentality, right? And attending Sacred Heart and St. Kitts on Saturday, and kind of an upset, not really an upset, because I find that these top teams, like especially within the top 10, I think if they were to play each other, the point margins between all these teams is not really that much, it's not that much. I feel like I'd have to be deep into the teens to where it would be an upset. Like even St. Peter's, I think even when they played Sacred Heart as well, and they lost 15-0 to Sacred Heart, and they were ranked 22nd at the time, and Sacred Heart was number 1. That's not really 15 points is not really a big margin, because one try from St. Peter's, you're in the game. You're really in the game, and you're really applying pressure. So calling this upset is only based on the No.1 team fell in the country. And I had said this before anyway. Whoever loses, I don't think is going to lose again. But I also don't feel like who wins this game. I also don't believe that they are going to be the clear favourites to win the 1A. And even if Sacred Heart won the 1A, even if Sacred Heart won on Saturday, it doesn't mean that they're automatically going to go all the way through. I just think that for both of these teams, this was going to be the hardest game for both of those teams. Now in the semi-finals, it's going to be a different story. I don't think they're going to play each other till they get to the finals. I don't believe that those two teams are going to lose a game from now on. I thought Calston Boys was going to be a threat, but because they lost to Auckland Grammar, I kind of don't tend to believe that anymore. And they feel like kind of like a hot and cold kind of team. But anyways, with the number one discussion, and I'm still trying to figure out what is number one and what is number two. Because you could take it to about 7, right? Because you have to have some consideration for Nelson and Christchurch. And I know like some of you guys right now are thinking, well, the South Island just hasn't been able to prove themselves a lot when it comes to national champions. Whenever it comes to top 4, apart from Christchurch Boys back in the days, they've just never been able to win it and never been able to go that, And so, I personally, I'm looking at it right now too, and I'm thinking, well, obviously Hamilton Boys has to be one of those considered. They're sitting at number 2 right now. They are 4-0 from the start of the ranking system, beating Rotorua Boys by that margin that they did. And in the manner in which they did it, and also within the rain and stuff, they just played like it wasn't raining. That's just kind of the way that they are. If you haven't watched the game, go watch it on YouTube. They have. I'll put it up on my page so that everyone can have a watch. But just the way that they played, you have to say that they have to be strong consideration for number 1. Again, if I make Hamilton Boys number 1, they're not going to lose that spot. Now, the idea of it is that they don't lose a spot. The idea of it is to go, who is now the best team? Not like who's not going to fall off, but who is actually the best team. Because even like when you look at it, like if I was to consider Scots, because Scots is obviously a team that I'm considering, Silverstream is also a team that I'm considering, but one of those two teams is going to lose. And both of those teams sitting at 5 and 6 are also in that consideration of, well, if I was to pick my number 1, who is actually better right now? I think Scots is better right now based on the way that they play and how they score, and Silverstream right now is kind of the more balanced team. You know what they are, you know what you're going to get, but they're not going to be like a fast-paced, high-scoring machine like what Scots College is. It's just different the way that they play, and right now I feel like Scots is the better team. But they still have to play each other, and then one of those guys is going to have to lose. Now, if they were to be put as number 1, are they truly going to be a number 1 contender, and are they really going to be challenged past the point of each other? That you would even know and be able to continually solidify your argument that they are number 1. For example, Westlake Boys have played Tauranga Boys and they beat them 34-12. Pretty convincingly. Was kind of good for a while there for Tauranga Boys, and then Westlake just turned on some Westlake, and then they just went all the way to the end, winning 34-12. That comparison when Hamilton Boys gets to play Tauranga as well is what we're going to see as the comparison. It was just like, well, both Westlake and both Hamilton boys play Tauranga, and we're going to match up what those scores are. If Hamilton boys can outdo them at a higher rate or better rate of what Westlake did, then we can go, cool, that's a pretty good number one selection. But if they don't, and Westlake's score seems to be better, you're then going to have to look at the comparison and go, if Westlake was playing in the Super 8, would they go unbeaten? And if they played each other again, if Hamilton boys and Westlake played each other again, will the outcome become Hamilton boys winning again? Or will Westlake show how good they've gotten since the first time that they played in pre-season? And then that's kind of the discussion that I'm having with myself right now, because like Westlake have no one close to them. Like even this game that was just on Saturday, and I've got a bit of the game that I can watch, and the score was 25-0, I think it was. And that's on a wet day. But what would have been on a dry day? So I have to look at Westlake. When I look at Westlake and judge how good they actually are as a team, I have to look at the scores that they put up. Not the fact that they win, but the fact that they are scoring well against teams that I know that if Hamilton boys was also to play that team, or if Sacred Heart or Kelson or Scots or Silverstream or Nelson or Christchurch, will they also be able to put up those same scores against those teams that Westlake did? Now, Westlake beat Rangitoto 81-5, beat Manurewa 89-0. Then they played their game against Tauranga boys, won 34-12. Beat Takapuna 68-7, which I didn't think against a good Takapuna side would be that scoreline. Then they played Rosemary and they won 49-15, and then they played Orewa and then they won 72-5. Now to me, having those kind of score lines in a competition like that says to me that Westlake is also a number one team. It also confirms to me that Westlake can put up big numbers when they have to. It's also telling me that Westlake is not taking their foot off the pedal when they're getting these big scores. And for a team like that playing in a weak competition, they're going to have to learn not to take their foot off when they're in these big high-scoring games, because you can easily switch off and get used to switching off at times in the game when you're pretty much used to winning. And their strategy and goal right now is that when they're 40-something points up, that the sideline remains hungry for more points, that the team as a whole remains committed to the fact that we're going to play right to the end and we're going to keep trying to score to keep that mentality intensity high. Because and it's not to demean the other team. To me it's that if they keep this intensity high, it means that when they come into the top four, when they come into that playoff between them winning the North Harbour Championship and then they have to play the 1A champions, they are going to have to play and have that same cycle of mentality right through the whole game so that they don't get used to having a drop-off in the last 10 minutes. And they're going to have to cut out the playing around on the sideline, they're going to have to cut out the jokes, they're going to have to cut out the, trash talking and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that's what they do, but those are signs that you know that a team has lost focus, whether they're losing by a lot or whether they're winning by a lot. Westlake boys has to be that team that cuts all that stuff out and still cheers on their team to keep to the game plan and score points. Because when it comes down to these top games, that's the attitude that they're gonna need and the commitment that they're gonna need. And we kind of saw that when it came to the top 4. After they had beaten Kelston, that Westlake team that I saw was not the Westlake team that I saw at Kelston. And even at Kelston, they started to fall off a bit. And James Cameron actually was one of the guys that I thought was still playing really, really hard. But they're gonna have to learn to make sure that they keep that intensity high for these bigger games.
Go.
And again.
And when I read scores like 72, 68, 89, 81, to me that is a team that's like, I don't care if we're up by 67 points. Let's do 2 more tries. We've got 9 minutes. Let's score two tries. Let's try and get it. Let's push ourselves, keep ourselves controlled, and carry on and just do it. That's why if they keep putting up these kind of scores, to me that's a number one. That's a number 1 team. That's what it looks like. And that's still considering the fact that we still got Hamilton boys to talk about. We still got St. Kentigern's to talk about because St. Kentigern's knocked off, the number 1 team in the country. And so they also have their reason for like, hey, we deserve to be number 1. Beating Liston 46-0, beating St. Paul's 55-7. The hard one was that 17-10 over De La Salle, who pushed them right to the end. But they've played Liston, St. Paul's, De La Salle, and Dilworth. And Auckland Grammar. But they got Kelston, they got St. Peter's, they've got Mags, they got Kings. Now, I don't expect them to lose to any of them. I thought Kelston boys would probably be their hardest game. But after Kelston boys played on Saturday against Auckland Grammar, I don't even know if they're in the same conversation anymore. And even though I give teams an extra loss, be like, oh, that's fine, because losses happen anyway. And then they lose to Liston, which I thought, that's not very good because Liston historically has not been a good team. Liston's been able to win some games. Liston's been able to carry that team that they've built up and actually play to the point where they're making the middle of the table, which is great. Now, that doesn't make Kelston's loss look so bad, but at the same time, Auckland Grammar's not playing that great either. Now, we saw the points that Auckland Grammar got put on them by Hamilton boys, and then that's the scale that we have to go by when we talk about the top teams in the country. Auckland Grammar played St. Kentigern's, and St. Kentigern's won 32-24, which tells me St. Kentigern's let Auckland Grammar score 24 points. That's kind of what their scoreline tells me. They let them score 24 points, even though they scored 32 points. And then you have to go back and look at Hamilton boys. And when I went to the game to Hamilton boys and Auckland Grammar, and I look at how that game turned out, and then I can't really go in and then sort of make this, argument that St. Kentigern's, even though they knocked off the number 1 team in the country, it's such a hard-fought game, and then look around and look and go, well, Hamilton beat Auckland Grammar by 48 points. And you let them score 24 points against your 32-point win. Like 32 points to 24. So you let them score like 3 tries. And then Hamilton boys won 48-0. And then that's the kind of comparison that when I do these rankings, I go, well, these are the 2 same teams that you guys played. This is your scoreline, 32-24, and this is your scoreline, 48-0. Now, if you were to look at that and go, okay, if these 2 teams are going to play, who are you looking at going, who's going to win this game? You're definitely looking at Hamilton boys. That's why the same comparison is going to be important when I see Hamilton boys play Tauranga boys, and then I go, okay, if your scoreline is not better than Westlake boys, and I know that you guys aren't really going to play again, yes, you had a preseason game, but you guys still both have like 30 men in your squad at that time. So yes, you do want to win those preseason games, but at the same time, you're still trying to figure out what your team is.
Oh, good tackle.
Now, for me, I'm just looking at it and go, wow, I gotta go with Hamilton boys on this because they won the preseason game. But at the same time, in season, Westlake boys having their full team, playing against the Tauranga boys team that is really, really good because we saw how the stakes that they were in, and then they were able to play Napier boys on Saturday, and then they beat Napier boys, and they look like the number 2 team in the Super 8, and then the number two team in the Super 8 played the number 1 team in North Harbour, who probably averages around 70 something points or 60 something points scoring for that number 2 team in the Super 8. Lost to the number 1 team in the North Harbour comp 34-12. Now you just gotta think about these things. You just gotta think about what those scores mean. You gotta think about how that game would have been. You gotta think about, okay, if I name them number 1, are they gonna stay number 1? If I name them number 1, are they gonna drop? Do they have enough strong games within their schedule to justify them being there? Usually I would go New Plymouth boys. That's who Westlake have to play outside of their competition, who's really good. And this year they're just not. I feel like Westlake boys is going to put up a number on New Plymouth if New Plymouth is not careful, because New Plymouth got such a young team. They're trying to build something up, and it's going to take a while for these guys to figure out, oh, this is what the level looks like. Now, yes, New Plymouth boys was able to beat Auckland Grammar, but like this year, saying that you beat Auckland Grammar doesn't have the same strength and velocity as it usually would. It's just how it goes. But if Westlake keep playing, they're definitely not going to lose a game, and then their first loss, that is going to be, if I make Westlake boys number 1, there's a chance that they stay number 1 for the rest of the season. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Because for the whole season, like, if I make Westlake boys number 1, for me to change them out, those scores from the North Harbour comp will have to get smaller and smaller for me to go, hey, you guys don't deserve to be number one if you're going to have scores like this in a competition you should be dominating. If in the first round of your competition you were winning 81, 89, 34, 68, 49, 72, and then the second round of it you go in and you start having scores like 37 points, 32 points, 29 points, 28 points, 16 points, you're like, well, hold on, how did you go from the 80s to the 70s to the 60s down to the solid 30s area? Like, to me that's like, well, now you're dropping your standards. Now you don't look like a number one team. How are you a number one ranked team and you're getting 30s now from when you guys were averaging 70s to high 60s in your competition? That to me says mentally you guys are not up for this. You guys are now coasting on something that you think are just all W's, but at the end of the day it's just like, if you're going to start playing like this, Hamilton boys are going to jump if they stay unbeaten as well. I've always said that Hamilton boys, the best time to beat them is right in the beginning of the season. Later on in the season, it's going to be hard to beat a Hamilton boys team. Hamilton boys, to me, they don't really look like they're going to lose. They still got Napier, Tauranga and Hastings. But from the way that I've seen them play against, seeing those teams play, Hastings, I just don't think they can beat them. Napier, I just don't know if Napier can beat Hamilton boys either. I'm struggling to see if Tauranga can actually beat them. And Tauranga, to me, is probably the closest side. It was either Napier or Tauranga, and I was thinking, and I even said before, I was like, well, whoever wins this game on Saturday, that team has got to be the closest one to beating Hamilton boys. Now that Tauranga won, and even from looking at the game, I was just like, I still don't know. I still don't see something in there that is stronger than what Hamilton boys can bring out. Even with Ollie carrying a bit of a jaw injury, like, they still put up 40 points on Rotorua boys without the number one player in the country. Now that's a scary thought. That to me still says, oh no, this is a team. This means you can still put in Jack Miller. You can still put in Alex Arnold. Switch Liam over to like 7. You know, things like that, and go, oh no, we're still fine. We'll still rack up 40 points against a Rotorua boys side. And that just goes a long way for when I look at who the number one team is. When the number one player in the country is out, they can still perform at that high level. Now you may say, well, that kind of looks bad on Ollie. It was just like, not really. Not if you see him play. They run a good game system. Players just make the system even better. Now, if Ollie played that game and he was able to offer another 12 to 15 points to that, just because of his dominance, is like, that's what Ollie is worth, is another 12 to 15 points. And I think he's worth around 12 to 15 points. And some of you players out there will be like, well, how much am I worth? I was like, trust me, sometimes it's not worth anything. Sometimes players are worth points, sometimes players are worth opportunities. A good prop is not going to translate to points, but he is going to translate to great opportunities and great positions. He's going to give you possession, like locks are kind of the same. Not everyone is like Tupou, where they were just running all over the place. Izzy Walker was another one, just ran all over the place, and he offered you meters and points. Tom Allen last year was not a meters and points, he wasn't a meters and points guys. He was an opportunity guy. He's going to be the guy that smashes you so many times in and around the rucks that the next time you see him, you're like, oh, I'll give this one a miss and I'll just go to the next one. That is an opportunity. He's one of those guys. He's like, oh no, I went against him in the next ruck. I'll wait for the next one to come. He's the one that when you get the ball and you see he's the one tackling you and he just tackled you 2 rucks ago, you're like, oh, I'm going to pass this ball off. And that's a scary pass to the point where you don't want to get hit and Tom Allen's going to hit you. And Tom Allen's not a big hitter. He's a heavy hitter. One of those that hurts. It doesn't look like it's hard. It just hurts. You're going to have to ask the player and he goes, oh no, yeah, I'll skip. He's the guy that puts his hands down and he goes, I'm dummy. He's like, yeah, you're pretty smart at being a dummy because you don't want to get hit again. Ollie is one of those kind of guys that gives you points and meters. Just one of those kind of things that you look out for. And so like, even though Hamilton boys did a 40-point game without him there, you never know what Ollie could have brought if he was on the team, if he was on the field. Could have given you 50, you know? It's just kind of one of those things. Like, you don't really know, you know, what a player is kind of worth, you know? You don't really know kind of what they're going to give you sort of in those moments. And like, Ollie is just kind of that guy. And like some of you, I mean like, you know, a lot of the times guys have asked me like, oh, why do you think, you know, Ollie is that good? Or why do you think, you know, why have you, you know, put him number 1? And, you know, what do you think that he does better than I do? And sometimes you can get really hurt feelings if you ask me questions like that. Because sometimes those truths don't really feel good. And I just kind of have to tell you. You know, so that's why I always ask, like when someone asks me, you know, hey, why do you think this guy is better than me? I was just like, well, if I tell you, are you going to be all right with the answer? And I'm not saying that this is the only truth. I'm just saying this is what my truth is and what I see and what I pick out and my opinion, just like everything else on this is my opinion. Now, my opinion carries a lot most of the time because of what I do and what I know about this. But at the same time, is like, you can also prove my opinion wrong. That's the greatest thing about this. Like, I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind putting my opinions out there for it to be challenged and people to go, say, hey, you said that they're going to win. I was like, well, I'm not. Like, I don't tell the future. I just tell you what I think. You know? Right now, I'm thinking Sacred Heart obviously has to fall out. Still a great team. Still could win the 1A. Still could actually win our national championship. Even in my mind, I still think Hamilton boys and Sacred Heart probably are still the best teams in the country. And it's just got to be that question mark with Westlake boys, as well as now you've added in St. Kentigern's. And depending on what that Scots College and Silverstream game score is, that's where another question is going to be answered too, and be like, wow, who won, how much, and how did they do it? It's just like, well, that translates well. And that's what I'm waiting for. But is it going to be Hamilton number 1, Sacred Heart number 2, with Westlake or St. Kentigern's Westlake Scots? Or does Sacred Heart move back 2 more and St. Kentigern's jumps ahead? Do we offer the same thing that I offer every team when they lose 1 game? That same sort of grace period. Do I have to offer that even when you are the number one team? They only lost to the 4th ranked team in the country. But does that mean that they switch? Does that mean that it has to go Hamilton boys, Westlake boys, St. Kentigern's sacred? Do I have to drop sacred all the way back to 5? Because Scots need to be moved up. It's not right for them to drop past the top 5. It's even iffy to me to drop them to number 5. But remember, we've got to actually remember that Scots College, the way that they played out King's College in the preseason, even though again, we're just talking preseason, that's a big, massive score. And it still reigns true to how King's College is playing now, that, oh no, that's a possibility. Remember King's College as well, like 58-22 is similar to what Scots College did to King's College in the preseason. Now, I don't know what the score is off the top of my head, and I was actually at the game. But Scots College were not threatened in any way that they were going to lose this game. And Sacred Heart 58-22 is similar to what Scots College can do, meaning that they can be in a similar position right now where you can actually argue for Scots College to be number 1. But they need to be tested, and they have the same problem that Westlake boys have in North Harbour, that Silverstream and Scots College have in the Wellington comp. And I'm not trying to down anyone in the Wellington competition, but you're not up to the standard of what Silverstream and Scots are. And you're not up to the standard of what Westlake boys is. Now, I would love to see Westlake boys, Silverstream and Scots College all have games against each other. 100% we're going to get a Scots College and Silverstream because they're in the same competition. But I would love to see them play Westlake boys. They should just have like a midweek game, knowing who they're going to play on, on the Saturday. Be like, yeah, we can take that team. That's fine. We need to stay sharp. And the staying sharp thing is a real thing. It's a real thing that you can't take for granted. As much as the 1A and the Super 8 are massive, massive competitions and they're hard all year round, they stay sharp all year round. They may be beat up, they may be bashed around a bit when it comes towards the end of the season, but at the end of the season, they still know how to dig deep in games and get themselves out of it. These guys in Wellington, they kind of don't. Westlake and that, they kind of don't. The other benefit right now, and I haven't considered them, is Whanganui Collegiate. And it's funny too, because I spoke about them before and I said the CNI is so close that every team is probably going to have 2 losses on the year. Whanganui just lost on Saturday to Wesley College, and I said Wesley College could do this. Because Wesley College is a really good team. Joey looks like he's going to be a New Zealand secondary school contender at number 8. If you watch all his games, he damages all over the field. Every single game. From number 8. And then now they're going to have to look at Ollie Mathis. Now they're going to have to look at guys like Sean McNaughton is another one. Braden Seals another one that you're going to have to look at. Phoenix down in Otago Boys, you have to look at Phoenix too, because he's another big, massive number 8, who I think is a New Zealand secondary school prop. I think Phoenix should play in the front row. And I think that's the props that we should probably have. And like, we're stacked with props, but I think that when Phoenix leaves school, he's going to go, they're going to look at him and go, you got to play prop, and he'll probably make New Zealand under 20s as prop. He's that good of a player. I think Metu's like the other one. Metu's another one where he's so good at a number 8, but his size is the size of a prop right now, and that you want to have in your New Zealand rep teams. Like, I believe that for the Blues and the under 18s, they should put Metu Manasseh from Scots College up into the front row for props in the Blues under 18s. He's that good, he's that size, he's already physically built out for what you want as a New Zealand secondary school prop. He just has to play number 8. But I see him like Ollie Norris from the Chiefs. He's exactly the same as what Ollie was when he was at St. Peter's. Made New Zealand secondary schools too. He's the same thing, it's like you need to put him up there. He's just playing around number 8 right now because he has to for his team. But to me, I think he's a New Zealand secondary school prop. And I will pick him next year for New Zealand secondary schools too. I would pick him this year for under 18s Blues and try him at prop. But Joey is like one of those kind of guys that needs to be considered for number 8. And the way that they beat Whanganui Collegiate makes that competition so much harder, and probably the best competition to watch in the country. Because all these guys are so close in talent, and they've all got massive, massive talent all over the field. And every single team, and almost every team going down to maybe the last 1 or 2, everyone's stacked and they've got a lot of talent. And like, if you can jump on, the Whanganui Rugby Province YouTube page, they always have the Whanganui Collegiate games on there. Have a look at those. Go watch those. Fielding High School have their Facebook or their YouTube page as well, and go and watch their games and go and watch their highlights and their players, because obviously Mosese Basin's going to be a number 8, number 6 in the country too, and Joey's pushing that as well. So they're going to have to really make some of these decisions, but Joey has to be in that conversation, and he showed exactly why he is that good by Wesley being this good. I mean, you still have to.
Come on, seconds.
mean, you still have Tomasi, you still have David, you still have Apai up front, you still have, and like even like with when you have these teams that travel away, which was the other thing that I was thinking about, I was like, maybe Wesley's going to struggle being that far away, and they just played it like nothing. And they proved how good they were even on the road. I mean, going from like Drury down to Whanganui is a long drive. Played it off like nothing. They still won it, but they still came away with the win. Now, was Whanganui too close? Were they close to being considered? Kind of. I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't. They probably just don't have the depth. Which is the other problem. They probably just don't have the depth. Like a lot of these schools and a lot of these teams have is that depth that they have. And losing doesn't make you, like, this is not boxing where boxing you have one loss and they go, oh, you're never going to be great at all. It's like, no, that's not what this is. Even with a loss, you can still be considered a top 10. Because just one loss is just one loss. It's fine. And maybe even better for your competition that your whole competition is ranked high. Even if you're not in the top 10, or if you're not in the top 5, but you're in the top 10, it's still range true. Who knows, like, remember Fielding beat Silverstream in the preseason. You know, that's not easy. Now, St. John's beat St. Peter's, almost beat Kelston. Wesley beat Rotorua Boys. You know, this CNI competition, like St. Paul's really dealt to Palmy Boys in the preseason. Like, really dealt to them. So, like, this CNI competition is so high and, like, such a highly ranked competition as a whole that they are probably the best competition to watch in the country. And people are going to go, well, the A1's better. It's like, well, you don't really know, do you? Because for one, the 1A they don't have any games that you can view. They took that away. CNI, you can go onto Whanganui like rugby page, you can go into the Fielding Cap page, you can, like Wesley's got a lot of highlights. I go to a lot of these games as well. Like a lot of these teams should just put their stuff online so that everyone can be seen. That's the whole point of this. So everyone can see it. But we don't see anything from Auckland. And Auckland's not that great of a competition to watch anyway, because that last end of, that last half of their competition can't keep up. And the long run of it, they can't keep up.
I am very serious.
That's why you need, they need to do something about, North Harbour 1A and also the Auckland 1A. They have to be put together. I have no doubt about last year and this year that Westlake boys will probably be top 5 or not even top 5, maybe even the number 1 team in the country, in the competition right now. If they join the 1As from North Harbour and Auckland together, Westlake will probably be the best team. Or number 2. They do it in under 15s, why not just do it for first 15? Strange. You're all in the Blues region. You're all 30 minutes apart from each other, because of your traffic. Really should be 15 minutes. I don't understand why you can't just put the competitions together. Strange to me. So this is just a rankings talk. This is a rankings podcast. Now, Sacred Heart, Hamilton boys, Westlake boys, St. Kentigern, Scots College as 1 to 5. Silverstream, Nelson, Christchurch, Whanganui, Tauranga boys. Tauranga boys 1, they remain where they are. Tauranga boys still dropped that one game, and they still remain in the top 10. Only reason why Otago boys isn't higher is because of the competition that they play in. But they're another one where I'm looking at scores and being like, okay, this is how much you're doing, this is what you're doing. Does that warrant you moving up? Now, top 10 is going to look different. Tauranga will probably move up to 9, maybe even 8. Sacred Heart, I don't know how much they're going to fall, but does Scots look good as the number 1 team in the country? Does Westlake boys look good team, look like a team that's good enough to be at the number 1 spot? Does it look good when you visually look at it? I know it's going to look weird because people aren't used to looking at Sacred Heart as Westlake boys as the number 1 team in the country. We've seen it a couple of times with Scots College where they deserve it. I mean, they've been to the national championship, they've won a national championship, they've drawn, things like that. They've over the past 10 years that I've been doing it, Scots College have always been really, really hard to deal with. Have always been a scary team for people to come up against. So visually, it's not like a new thing for us. Especially those that have been following my page. It's not out of the ordinary to see Scots College up there. It's out of it's so strange to see Westlake this highly ranked, and it be true, and it be warranted, and it be achieved and they're this good, and they really are this good. It's weird to see it, and so even when you visually look at it, you're like, well, we're just not used to seeing them up here. Maybe around 10. Maybe highest 9, 8 something. But seeing them as a number as high as number 1 or 2, you're gonna have to. The sacred 4 to 4. Does everyone just move up one so it becomes Hamilton, Westlake, St. Kentigern's sacred, and then Scots and Silver Street? Does that feel right? Does that even sound right? I don't know. Kind of, not really. Because even though St. Kentigern's won, I still look at Sacred Heart and go, I still think they have a better team. From my opinion, it's I still think they have a better team. But I have to reward the win. I still have to reward the win, even though I give a pass to our teams having a loss. Because I don't think it's fair if you drop Westlake boys back to 4. Just to make it visually look better. If you had Hamilton boys, Sacred Heart, St. Kentigern's, Westlake, just to give that grace of a loss. Even if it's a loss, we'll just go, well, they're not going to hold the number 1 spot, so we put them at 2, move St. Kentigern's up to 3, put Westlake at 4. Why would we move Westlake though? What's the argument for that? Just to make the other 2 teams feel better? But they're putting up 90 and 80 point games? It's no, I don't think that feels right either. That doesn't look right either. The argument of that does not work either. You can't argue that. Because it's not going to sound right. It's not going to be right if you do that. So for me, it's just how do we go about it? How would we put this so that it still looks right, it still becomes agreeable, and it still becomes the right feeling of First 15 Rugby's best top 5 that we have? Like, you can't have that conversation of like, is Hamilton boys a number one team? Bloody hell, yes, of course they are. It's almost every year they're a number one team. So that conversation is an easy one to have. The hardest conversation to have is, do we shift around Westlake just to make the Auckland teams feel better? Which should be a no. But visually, you'll be like, yeah, we should just do that. Personally, I just don't think it's right. Right now, I'm feeling like Hamilton boys should be 1, Westlake should be 2, St. Kentigern's have to be credited for their win. And Sacred Heart just have to come, they just have to take that loss. And Scots and Silverstream just have to wait their time. Or maybe I have to wait for that moment of that game to say, what's the difference between these two teams? How much did they win and lose by? And then does that warrant a jump up into the top 5? Past the top 5? Because if there's only a small difference between Scots and Silverstream, like let's say the score is like 17-13 to whoever, pick a team, Scots or Silverstream, that still doesn't warrant movement for both of these teams to go up or down, because they're still in the same similar spot. The one that lost may be dropping down one spot, but it doesn't mean they're going to drop down a lot, maybe just one. Or they could just stay the same. So like, in figuring this stuff out, it was like, well, visually it still has to look good. You still have to make your own argument. Like sometimes like when I get into these kind of situations, I jump on the side of one team and I go, well, if I was to argue for this team, this is how I would argue. And I do it that way. And then I stand on the other side and I go, well, if this was my team and I had to make an argument for this is what I'll do. I would bring out these points, I'd bring out these wins, I'd bring out these factors, and sort of had like my own court case in my head for which team should be the number one team, or who should be ranked where. Now, I don't know how this is going to go. And, by the time this is out, I don't know if I've already made my decision or if that rankings is going to come out later on tonight, but I've got to feel as positive as I can when I put it out, to be like, yeah, I've been able to argue the fact that these guys are where they need to be and blah, 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 and whatever. And just be all right with it, kind of thing.
You all right?
Tackle him! Smash him! Demolish!
This is actually a good game. How does it recognize things?
I need to catch some more girls' games. I got to figure out how I can come to more Auckland girls' games, to the Auckland competition ones, the 15-a-sides. I know that they have it on Mondays, but my daughters have basketball and boxing on Mondays, but I've got to try and figure that out. Maybe if they got Tuesday games or Thursday games. I've been able to go some of these Chiefs Manawa competition games that I've really, really loved to go and see. I've really loved seeing all the talent and all the girls put in that effort. I've seen some really, really talented chicks out there that have really surprised me, and like naturally in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm ranking these girls, is that girl like the number one player in the country? Like, is she at that quality of play? Because like there's some girls, like the captain for Sacred Heart College, the second five, she was the one that was part of the New Zealand Sevens last year. Like you can just tell how different she is on another level to some of these other girls. The first five for Taupo Nui Aotea College as well, she's another one. And like I even mentioned is the fact is like, you know, if she straightened up her play sometimes, she would get a lot more out of it. And those are just little critiques. That, like the rest of her game is perfect. Halfback was another one for Taupo, she's another really good player. You know, when I watched Hamilton girls, there was like 5 players on that team that I really liked. Their second 5 as well, their captain, her name's, I've lost her name, but I'm just getting used to all these players. There were girls that even in the Taupo and the Tauranga side that I thought, oh yeah, like they're not far off. They're not that far away from being something, like from being a pretty good team. And some of the stuff is just like, maybe just coaching needs to be a bit different. Like Sacred Heart girls and Hamilton have this number 8, who to me should probably be a prop, but just plays number 8 for her side. But the way that she carried the ball, I was like, holy crap, some of these girls are going to be careful, because she runs so heavy and she's coordinated and she's got balance and she's not silly in the way that she offloads. And sometimes I gotta try and be a bit more careful on like just assuming they know how to offload, or just assuming they know how to set up a draw and pass, and just I've got to stop assuming that they know that, oh, that fullback's gone. The whole backfield over there is just kick a ball and chase it. Like you're already gonna pretty much score if you do that. I got to stop assuming this kind of stuff and making like a different standard from what the girls are, and not hold it to what the boys have already been doing. Because the girls need a chance to also find their feet as a whole, in terms of the whole game, to find their feet, and so that they can actually go, this is what our lane looks like for first team rugby. I'm already like looking at it in a way that like, I'm going, okay, if I'm picking a chief side, what does this look like? Because I've already seen a few girls from Westlake College and also Manurewa High School that are also really, really good. And from seeing Tauranga, Rotorua, Taupo, Hamilton girls, Sacred Heart, Wesley and Manurewa, I've already seen those teams play. That's seven teams, and if I get a chance to see the Sacred Heart and New Plymouth and the New Plymouth girls as well, if I get to see them and see what players that they have and go, oh, okay, those two girls look really sharp. Those girls, like that chick there looks like she's, really talented, or like a few trainings away from like critiquing, hey, just do this and you'll be all right. Because a lot of these girls are kind of like that, where the initial like skill set that they have is all right. It's just like little tweaks of adjustments of going, oh no, just start off on your front foot first. Like it's like that kind of, adjustments that they need. It's not like trying to teach them the whole position. Most of them already know what it is. They'll be like, oh no, don't line up here, and then work your way left and play it that way. That's kind of all the kind of information and adjustments that these girls need in terms of helping them with more of their positional roles and how to look at the game. But a lot of these girls are already skill-wise pretty high. And if I was part of New Zealand rugby for that women's side of it, I would just send coaches around to different schools to help other coaches to go, oh, I'm just here to critique some of your girls, just go through your normal trainings and I'll just pull them to the side as you go along. So you're just not taking over the whole training, but just offering girls different things as they go along, and then, you know, send them like notes and stuff like that. I would do something like that if it was up to me, because coaching for the most part is pretty good, but I think we need to start pushing more guys into coaching girls' sides, and like having like really good guys who are good coaches start coaching girls, and sort of getting them into that line of how you train, because I think some of the girls are not really used to that kind of stuff. Like one girl on the side of Sacred Heart, she just walked off the field and goes, I need to get strapped. And you go, well, you can't just walk. And the coach was looking at her like, you can't just walk off the field and not tell me, or have not someone go on. Like, those kind of things you'll never see in first team rugby. You'll be like, bro, get on the field, man. You can't do that. But this girl, she just walked off and started taking off her shoes and goes, do my ankle. So I was like, the coach was like, holy crap, you can't just walk off. You know, it's like, it was funny to see. Like, I thought it was pretty humorous, but I could understand where he was coming from, because he was just like, hey, you can't just do that. Like, you can't just walk off. Anyways, I'm going to start doing more with girls rugby. I still want to promote it, because I just love that level of game, and I want to try and help it grow too, and establish something in first team rugby for them. But yeah, in terms of like, let's go through some of these scores during the week. You know, early on we had St Andrews beating Timaru 33-7. That was on. This is the games on Mondays. Sacred Heart. Southern Cross and Avondale, they drew at 15. Whanganui Collegiate beat Lindisfarne. Silverstream beat Wellington 32-19 in like one of the worst fields ever. Good game though. Good game. Christchurch boys was the same with Selwyn. Selwyn slipped off a bit. Christchurch boys still looking strong. Selwyn's got to find it. Like, they've lost Keza, who's such a good player, but I think he might be done for the season. Hopefully not, but it doesn't look good. Palmy beat New Plymouth boys. Good game as well. Another solid one. New Plymouth were so lucky not to win that game. Whanganui beat Orewa 36-0. This is on Friday. Pakudanga beat One Tree Hill on Friday as well, 39-20. Now we get to the top 25 rankings. Sacred Heart lost to the St Kentigern. Hamilton beat Rotorua boys 40-7. Westlake won over Massey 25-0. Scots won 65-21 over Hibs. Whanganui Collegiate lost 19-26 to Wesley College. Tauranga boys beat Napier boys 25-21. Fielding won 38-17 over Lindisfarne. 86-13. Otago boys beat South Otago. And South Otago actually played pretty well for that first half, and it just fell off. But they played really, really well. First five, second five for South Otago, really, really solid. Hastings beat Gisborne 26-19. St John's Hamilton played against St John's Hastings 83-0. Kelston lost to Auckland Grammar 24-25. Southland boys won 33-17 over Kings High School, who's getting a lot better. I like that Kings High School was like really starting to put things together with their team. St Peter's beat Mags 43-6, which looks like a rebuilding year with a bunch of year 11s on the field for the Mags team. St Peter's Cambridge won 35-17 over Rathkill. St Paul's Collegiate beat Francis Douglas 18-5. St Thomas beat Timaru. Rosmini beat Manurewa 73-0. Takapuna beat Rangitoto 42-39, and that game I'm going to be watching soon, because I heard they've got it out there on YouTube. Mahurangi College won 69-0 over Massey. Second 15. Long Bay College lost to Kaipara 18-5. Northcote beat Birkenhead 44-14. Liston College beat St. Paul's 18-7, and which I heard was a really, really, really good game. So I hope I get sent that game so I can watch it too. De La Salle beat Dilworth 39-0. Kings won 37-5 over Tangaro College. The 1B in Auckland, Aotearoa beat Southern Cross Campus. Otahu College lost to Avondale College. Waitakere beat Maclean's. Howick beat Omehanga. That was the other game I was at, and I saw some. I'm so glad I went to it because I saw some players that I was thinking, how good are these players actually? And I know that I've got them in there. I've seen them on film. I need to see them better on the field, and they did not disappoint. And I picked up some new players too that I really, really like as well. Rosehill won by default over Alfriston and Counties. Papakura High School beat Pukekohe second 15. Waiuku beat Hauraki Plains 27-12. Matamata College won the Tricolor Trophy off Cambridge High School. Morrinsville College beat Hamilton Boys Senior Gold. Te Awamutu beat Hamilton Boys Senior White. Rototuna beat St. Paul's second 15. Tokoroa went down to Pataru College 56-0. Tikawiti High School beat St. Paul's White 26-5. This is all in the Waikato. Forest View, they beat Te Awamutu 36-10. Fraser High School beat St. John's third 15, 56-12. And Odos beat, I guess that's St. Paul's Collegiate Black Team 81-0. And Taranaki Waitara beat Te Paipai Aotea 17-20. Oh, no, they lost 17-25. Inglewood lost to Opunaki High School 17-14, and then Central and Francis Douglas Memorial second 15 drew at 13 each. Taupō beat Papamore and Bay of Plenty. Mount Maunganui beat Western Heights. Whakatane lost to Trident. Te Taumata lost to Roto Boys third 15. Te Puki beat Aotea Moitai. And Manawatu, Danny Verk lost to Horowhenua. And Whanganui High School beat Palmy Boys third 15. St. Pat's Town came back with a good win against Mana College. Rongotai beat St. Brendan's in such a close game, and I hope someone can send me that game because I want to watch that game too. Parapara Umu lost, and I was like hoping that they were able to get up over Silverstream second 15. Nainai College beat Porirua College. Aotea College beat Bishop Viard, and Hutt Valley High School beat Newlands College. Marlborough Boys beat Christ College 23-21, and that's a really, really important one for that competition and for Marlborough. And then St. Bede's beat St. Andrews 41-40, and St. Bede's is looking like they might go back up into the top 25, somewhere around there. Waimea Combined beat Horomaka Combined 67-0. Kashmir Combined beat Aoraki 13-10. Mid Canterbury just lost to Christchurch Boys second 15, 22-18, and Rangiora beat St. Thomas second 15, 29-21. John McGlashan beat Wakatupu High School 10-8. This is an Otago comp. Mount Aspiring lost to Dunstan 51-29. Waitaki Boys lost to the second Obi's second 15, 36-24, and then St. Kevin's beat Tyree College 43-11. Thank you very much for joining me at the Monday morning meeting. Love you all. Hope you all have a great week. Don't worry about the losses. Let's get over it. Move on to our next games. Later, ball.